8 crops. They grow anywhere, they last for months, and they never run out. If you want real food security, pay attention. Zucchini is survival food in disguise. One plant gives you 30 to 50 pounds, so much that your biggest problem isn't growing enough, it's handling the overflow. But here's the trick nobody tells beginners: plant your seeds on a small raised mound. Zucchini hates wet roots, and this simple mound doubles your success rate. And the biggest mistake people make? They harvest way too early. Those tiny store zucchinis are babies. Those medium garden zucchinis? They're still babies. For real seed saving and long-term storage, you need to let them grow huge, arm-sized huge. It sounds wild, but fully mature zucchinis stay soft inside, and that's when the seeds develop perfectly. Let them ripen, store them whole in a cool, dry spot, and they'll last 5 to 6 months with zero refrigeration. When you're ready, open one up, dry the seeds, and you've got planting power for up to 6 years. 6 years of seed insurance from one vegetable. And here's the part almost everyone overlooks: those saved zucchini seeds? Roast them with a little oil and salt and you've got a nutrient-packed survival snack. Free protein, free minerals, zero effort. But the real power move is this: fully mature zucchini store for months at room temperature. Keep a few big ones in a cool, dry spot, and you've secured both next year's seeds and food deep into winter. That's why zucchini earns its place on this list. It grows in about 60 days, tolerates neglect better than most crops, produces absurd amounts of food from minimal space, stores through winter without electricity, and gives you unlimited replanting potential with almost zero effort. When you need calories fast and long-term seed security, zucchini is your insurance policy. But the next crop isn't about speed. It's about lasting through winter when nothing else will grow and most of your harvest is already gone. Zucchini keeps you fed in summer, but spaghetti squash is your winter lifeline. One plant gives you up to 40 pounds of food, and here's the crazy part: stored in a cool, dry spot, it lasts 6 to 8 months with zero electricity. Harvest in September. Eat fresh in March. And the biggest misconception? People think it needs huge space. It doesn't. Grow it just like zucchini, same mound, same sun, same care, and you've got a compact, long-lasting survival crop. Most people waste 6 feet of garden space on spaghetti squash, but here's the game changer: it climbs. A trellis, a fence, even a simple A-frame, and suddenly you're growing 8 squash in just 2 square feet. And when it's time to eat, roast it, scrape it, and you've got pasta-like strands that pair with anything you have. Simple, versatile, and perfect for survival. Here's the real power of spaghetti squash: one squash gives you enough seeds for the entire next season, free, effortless, and they stay viable for 5 years. And don't toss the rest. Roast those seeds and you've got a nutrient-packed survival snack loaded with healthy fats and minerals. Even better, the squash itself stores for months, carrying you through the hunger gap when fresh food is long gone. With vertical growing, it fits in even the smallest garden. You don't need a farm. And the next crop solves the calorie problem that everyone underestimates when they first start thinking about food security, because vegetables fill you up but they don't actually fuel you for heavy work. Potatoes are literally the reason entire societies survived winters. 1 pound of potatoes gives you 350 calories and enough carbohydrates to fuel a full day of physical labor, whether that's chopping wood, gardening, building, or whatever work needs doing. They grow in almost any soil, tolerate cold better than most vegetables, and store for months in a cool basement without any special equipment. This is the crop that keeps you alive when everything else is supplemental. Without potatoes or something similar, you're not getting enough calories to maintain your body weight and energy through winter. That's just the math. But here's the problem with traditional potato growing. Potatoes take serious space. A traditional potato bed needs 4 feet by 8 feet to produce maybe 40 pounds of potatoes. That's fine if you have acreage. But if you're working with a small backyard or urban lot, you need a different approach. You need potato towers. Here's exactly how you build one, and I want you to actually try this because it's a game changer. Take a 4-foot section of chicken wire and form it into a cylinder about 3 feet wide. Stake it to the ground so it doesn't collapse when you fill it. Now fill the bottom 6 inches with soil mixed with straw or compost, roughly half and half. Plant 4 to 6 seed potatoes on top of that layer, spacing them evenly. As the plants grow and reach about 8 inches tall, here's what you do: add another 6 inches of that soil straw mix, burying the lower leaves but leaving the top growth exposed. The buried stem will produce more potatoes. Keep doing this as the plant grows, layering soil every time it gets tall, until your tower is 3 to 4 feet high. The result? Depending on tower height and potato variety, you can harvest 80 to 150 potatoes from a single 3-foot tower. That's 2 to 3 times what you'd get from the same footprint in a traditional bed. The best part? Chicken wire is reusable, same potato tower every year. For long-term storage, stick to Yukon Gold, Russet, or Kennebec. New potatoes and fingerlings don't keep as long. Seed saving is effortless. Keep a few small potatoes, store them cool and dark, then cut and plant the sprouting pieces in spring. Each eye becomes a new plant, letting you multiply your crop forever. Potatoes are pure survival math. Nothing gives you more calories per square foot, and when you need energy to work and stay warm, carbs are non-negotiable. Potatoes deliver. But carbs alone aren't enough to keep you healthy long term. You need protein. And the next crop is the only one on this list that gives it to you in serious quantities. Potatoes and squash can keep you going for a while, but without protein your body breaks down. That's why beans are essential. Dry beans are packed with protein, store for years, and grow vertically, so you get huge yields in tiny spaces. Skip bush beans and plant climbing varieties. A single 6-foot trellis can give you 20 pounds of dry beans in just 2 square feet. Nothing else delivers that much protein per square foot. Plant your bean seeds at the base of a trellis once the soil warms. They'll climb on their own, just water consistently without overdoing it. For dry beans, leave the pods on the plant until they're brown, brittle, and the beans inside are hard. Harvest in late summer or early fall, shell them, and store them in sealed containers. Varieties like Provider, Kentucky Wonder, and Scarlet Runner produce heavily and store well. And seed saving is automatic. The beans you eat are the seeds you plant next year. Beans stay viable for years, especially if vacuum sealed, and they enrich your soil by fixing nitrogen. They're on the list because protein is non-negotiable for survival. It repairs tissue, builds muscle, and supports immunity. Beans give you all of that with nothing but soil and a trellis. In a crisis, they keep you going. And the next crop might look simple, but it's one of the smartest in terms of nutrition per square foot. Winter squash is the nutritional powerhouse you don't appreciate until food gets scarce. It's calorie-dense, rich in vitamin A, and stores for 4 to 6 months with zero processing, your bridge from fall harvest to deep winter. Grow it just like spaghetti squash, raised mound, full sun, steady water. And here's the bonus, winter squash climbs. Train it up a trellis and you'll save tons of space while still getting 4 to 6 squash per plant. Winter squash is pure survival fuel, 200 calories per pound and packed with vitamins A and C. It fills the nutritional gaps potatoes and beans miss, and it's incredibly versatile. Roast it, mash it, make soup, even bake with it. Butternut gives you more flesh, while acorn squash stores just as well with a richer flavor. Seed saving is the same as other squash. Let one mature fully on the vine until the stem dries and the squash sounds hollow when tapped. Cut it open, scoop out seeds, rinse them clean, dry for a week, and store. And again, don't throw those seeds away. Roast them for a snack loaded with magnesium, potassium, and healthy fats. One squash gives you months of storage food, plus next year's seeds, plus a protein-rich snack. That's 3 survival resources from one crop. Why is it on the list? Calories plus vitamins. Most survival crops lean heavy on carbs or protein, but they lack micronutrients. Winter squash covers what the others miss, and it does it while storing through the coldest months without electricity and growing vertically to save space. But the next crop is where things get really interesting, because it's one everyone knows and probably already grows, but most people are growing it completely wrong for survival purposes. Most people grow tomatoes for fresh eating in summer and maybe some canning if they're ambitious. But tomatoes are actually a calorie source, a vitamin powerhouse, and one of the easiest crops to save seeds from if you know what you're doing. Here's what matters for survival and what you need to change if you're growing tomatoes wrong right now. Grow paste or Roma varieties, not slicers. Paste tomatoes like San Marzano, Amish paste, or Roma are meatier, less watery, and infinitely better for preservation. One plant produces 20 to 40 pounds of tomatoes in a season. You can eat some fresh, but the real value is drying them in the sun or a dehydrator, turning them into sauce, or fermenting them for long-term storage. Growing them requires support, either cages or stakes, and consistent watering to prevent blossom end rot and cracking. But they're forgiving plants overall. Plant after your last frost when soil is warm, give them full sun and consistent water, and they'll produce for months straight through summer into fall. Determinate varieties produce all their fruit at once, which is good for sauce making. Indeterminate varieties produce continuously until frost, which is better for fresh eating. For survival, grow both. Here's something critical about tomatoes: they're heavy feeders. They deplete soil nutrients fast. Add compost or aged manure to their planting holes inside. Dress with compost mid-season. In a survival scenario where you can't buy fertilizer, you'll need to rotate where you plant tomatoes and add organic matter consistently. Seed saving is absurdly simple with tomatoes. Pick a perfectly ripe tomato from a healthy, productive plant. Squeeze the seeds and gel into a jar with a little water. Let it sit on your counter for 2 to 3 days until a layer of mold forms on top. That looks disgusting, but it's breaking down the germination inhibiting gel around each seed. Rinse the seeds thoroughly in a strainer, spread them on a paper towel to dry for about a week, then store them in an envelope. Tomato seeds last 4 to 6 years easily, sometimes longer. Why are tomatoes on the list? They give you vitamin C, lycopene for immune function, and acidity, which matters when your diet becomes grain and starch heavy. They're also one of the few crops that can be preserved multiple ways depending on what equipment you have available: dried, sauced, canned, or frozen. And seed saving takes literally 5 minutes once you know how. The next crop is controversial, and many people won't think of it as food at all, but if you ignore it, you're leaving serious food security on the table. Most people think of sunflowers as ornamental, something pretty to look at. But oilseed varieties, which are bred specifically for food production, produce massive seed heads packed with calories, protein, and fat. Those are 3 things you desperately need when food systems fail and you're trying to survive on what you can grow. 1 seed head can yield a full pound of seeds. 1 pound of sunflower seeds delivers 2,600 calories and 40 grams of protein. That's nearly a full day's nutrition from 1 plant. Think about that. Growing them is simple. They need full sun and decent soil but aren't particularly fussy. Space them 12 inches apart in rows. They grow 6 to 8 feet tall in about 90 days. They're so easy that kids can grow them successfully. Harvest when the back of the flower head turns brown and the seeds are plump and fully developed. The petals will have fallen off by this point. To save sunflower seeds, cut the head with a bit of stem, hang it upside down to dry, then rub or knock out the seeds. And here's why sunflowers rank so high for survival: their seeds are incredibly calorie dense, store for a year with 0 processing, and, most importantly, provide fat, something almost no other garden crop gives you. Fat keeps you warm, fuels your body, and helps you absorb vitamins. Eat the seeds raw, roasted, or press them for oil. And seed saving is automatic: the seeds you eat are the seeds you plant next season. Just keep back a good handful for next season, maybe 50 seeds or so. Plant them and you'll have hundreds back. Varieties matter. Look for mammoth sunflowers or specific oilseed varieties. Avoid ornamental varieties bred for appearance rather than seed production. Why is it on the list? Caloric density. When you're doing physical labor all day and food is limited, you need fat and protein together. Sunflowers deliver both in a package that grows easily, tolerates poor soil, and stores simply. And now, number 1. The crop that ties this whole system together because it feeds you and regenerates your soil at the same time. Peas are a nitrogen-fixing legume, which means they pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it in the soil through their roots. Translation: peas make your soil better for the next crop you plant. In a survival garden where you can't rely on fertilizer supply chains or garden centers, that's absolutely critical for long-term productivity. But beyond soil health, peas are fast, productive, and versatile. Shelling peas give you dry protein similar to beans that stores for years. Snap peas and snow peas give you fresh eating in just 60 days. Both types climb, so they're space efficient. 1 6-foot trellis produces 5 to 10 pounds of peas per season, more if conditions are good. Growing them is cold friendly, which sets them apart. Plant peas as soon as soil can be worked in early spring, often a month before your last frost. They tolerate frost and cold weather that would kill tomatoes or beans. Peas are the first fresh food of the season. Snap peas are picked green and crisp, shelling peas dry on the vine until the pods turn brown. They hate heat, so they're mostly a spring crop, with a possible fall planting in cooler climates. Seed saving is effortless: let a few pods dry completely, shell them, and store the peas for next year. They last up to 3 years. Peas are number 1 because they feed you and your soil. They're one of the few crops that give back more than they take. In a long-term survival scenario where soil fertility becomes a limiting factor and you can't buy fertilizer, peas keep your garden productive year after year. That's the crop that makes everything else possible. 8 crops. That's all you need. Not 20 varieties, not a complicated permaculture setup, just plants that deliver calories, store without technology, and regrow from saved seeds. And yes, corn didn't make the list. It's easy to grow, but it eats space. 1 or 2 ears per stalk means you need a huge plot to get real calories. Great if you have acreage, useless in a small yard. These 8 crops simply give you more food per square foot. And here's the truth, the time to plant is before you need to. Seeds are cheap. Knowledge is free. Start now. But when everyone realizes grocery stores aren't reliable anymore, seed companies will be backordered for months and you'll be starting from zero while people who planted last season are already eating. Start with 1 or 2 of these crops if that's all you can manage. Learn them. Save seeds. Build your skills now while it's just interesting instead of desperate. That's the difference between surviving and suffering.